can more quickly create service issues, and that is through what are called projects. We don't have a lot of time to go through these, but to give you sort of a general understanding, um, projects, a lot of times when we're talking about tasks that we do, not everything is a one-off, right? Like, okay, the leaky sink is just a leaky sink. That's the only thing that needs to be dealt with. But maybe you have a very long-winded make-ready process. So a customer's moved out, another customer is going to move in. And the move-in process, before that customer can move in, a lot of work needs to be done on the unit. We need to replace the carpet. We have to paint the walls. We have to make sure that all of the appliances work. It could be a series, and each one of those could be its own service issue. And so what we can do is we can actually create what are called projects. So I went into Service Manager and Project Manager, and I'm going to select Add New. I don't have any projects right now. I'm going to say Add New Project. This is a great way to track bigger projects. You could either start blank, or the best way is to use a template. Now, I have already created templates, which are basically a collection of service issues. And I'll show you those here in a moment. But I'm going to say use a template. Rent Manager says, what's the name of this project? I'm going to say Make Ready Apartment 101 Buckeye Hall. So that's the name of my project. Project start date is important. I'm going to say 4/24, hit next. Like I said, my database already has a lot of templates because I do a lot of big projects. This is a tenant move-in template. So I'm going to select this one and hit next. Now, the template might have already defined certain categories and priorities, but you could also say, you know, look, all of this is going to be for Nikolai Federick. I can change priorities, statuses, set default vendors. And then there's this option. Enforce project sequence. I'm going to skip it for now, but this is actually a really cool element of projects. So I'm going to hit finish. And if you'll notice, by kicking off that project, 4 service issues have been created. There is walk through the unit with a tenant, send them a welcome letter, issue the keys, and receive security deposit. So the actual template in Rent Manager is way different from what I described with the painting. That's probably something you would do after they've moved out. But let's say that this is our process. Okay, so those are the 4 things that I need to do. And each one of these are service issues. And I can double click it, and Rent Manager has already put in the issue name, and any of those defaults that I had set up would have been defined. Now, the other thing to notice is that back here on my issue list, my master issue list, 4 new service issues have been created. So I created 4 service issue tickets all at once by creating a project. You can view those issues here. You can also view them in the project manager. So if, let's say I had 5 projects right here, when I select one project, it shows me the service issues that are linked to it. And again, if I double click the service issue, you can see even on the general, or the first thing we can see on the issue is this is part of the Make Ready project. Now, I could go through and I can start working on those service issues, the 4. So let's say, but here's one last thing. I could add more issues to it. I could delete issues. Like maybe for this person, I don't need to issue them a key because I have a super advanced property and it's all key codes. So there's no actual key. I could remove those service issues or add new ones. So even though you have this set project, you can always customize it moving forward. But what I think is really interesting is this enforce project sequence. When that is enabled, the Rent Manager is saying you cannot, for example, close the issue key. I can't close this service issue until I have done the first thing in the list. So it's going to enforce. The first thing you have to do is walk through the unit with the tenant. Okay. Once I have done that, you can see I clicked the close issue box. And now it's highlighted yellow, send the welcome letter. Well, now I still can't receive a security deposit. I still can't issue the keys because I need to send the welcome letter. So if it's very important that those items are done in the order that they have been defined, enforce the project sequence. Now, again, I'm kicking off projects based on templates that I created. If you have never used projects before, it is unlikely that you have templates in Rent Manager. And if you go to Service Manager, Template Manager, which is directly below it, you can actually create your own templates. So, for example, if I wanted to, here are some templates that I already have, and so when I select one, here's new employee. Make them a key set, give them a Rent Manager username, schedule 3-month performance review. All of these things are items associated to a new employee. Let's create a new template. And for example, let's say I'm just going to call this a random inspection template. And I can give it, I could give the template something if I wanted in terms of a description. I could set defaults for all of these things. To-do tasks. Maybe this is always something that the admin user does. I can enforce the sequence here. A lot of those default options are available. And I know I'm sort of skimming over it, but my goal here for this 1-hour webinar is to expose you to a lot of the options, because what we see is that a lot of people aren't, even when they're using Service Manager, they're not using it to its fullest extent. And that's what I want you to sort of get from this presentation. So I hit save, and here is my random inspection. Well, this template is sad because it has no service issues associated with it. But with it selected, if I say add an issue, now I can create one issue linked to it. Now, what happens here is your project, when you kick off a project, Rent Manager immediately creates all of the service issue tickets. Let's say I generated a project on April 1st, okay? So all of the service issues in that project or in that template would have a create date of April 1st, period, because that's just the date Rent Manager created the service issue. But the open date could be adjusted. And so maybe I want to say, yes, I created the project on the 1st, but the open date for this project should be in 3 days, so on the 4th. And that can help you if you're using like filters on the issue list so that you're looking at show me tickets opened on this date. There's a difference between the create date of a service issue and the open date. And a lot of it just has to do with what you're filtering on. So I can also give it completion days. So essentially, how long would someone have to do this, how many days to complete the issue. Again, I can't set a specific due date because I don't know when the project will be kicked off. The idea is that I would do this a lot. So 2 days from the open date, basically. I could set in my priorities and enter the house and look around. This is not a great example that I'm thinking up off the fly, but I can save and close, and now I have one issue in this template.